Welcome back to the Boxbox Brothers podcast. He is Nick Perez, I am Ben Perez, and today we will be reviewing the Canadian Grand Prix. Nick, we're going to be talking about the Mercedes double podium. You are correct in Kimi having a week. Mercedes just had a week. George put it on pole. Surprisingly, the upgrades that they did bring this week really worked out for them well. I was very impressed with their performance. Today, we have the McLarens coming together. We were talking about it on our previous podcast as well as is this going to be the week that they do collide? And it turned out we were correct in that prediction. And then finally, Nick, we have to talk about Hamilton running over the groundhog, actually, in Canada. It seems to happen every year, and I am knocking myself on the head for not asking you over under 1.5 groundhogs being hit this week. So with that, Nick, let's get into it and let's talk about this Mercedes double podium.
I mean, the Mercedes double podium was honestly kind of crazy. I wasn't really expecting George to hang on to the lead of that race for that long, but him being able to do it honestly kind of shocked me. I really don't like George Russell though. I don't know. I don't like him.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
As soon as he threw it up on pole, I was like, oh, Nick is going to be very upset this week.
I just don't like him. I mean, that whole thing with the safety car at the end, that was probably the dumbest 30 seconds of a race I've ever seen.
What, it ended under a safety car?
No, that he was brake checking Max
to try to get him
immediately, and then immediately hops on the radio and goes, "He overtook me on the safety car."
Yeah, that was...
The steward's got to do it. The steward's got to do it. You can't be overtaking me. He literally just slammed on his brakes in the middle of the back straight.
He did.
It was the dumbest thing ever.
He did brake check him.
I mean, it was kind of a crazy brake check, too, to just throw out there. I mean, there was nothing to gain from that.
Well, you gain Max a penalty point. And then you knock him out for the next race, especially since 2 weeks from now, we're going to be in Austria. So you get him eliminated for that. And then this way, when he doesn't even have to collide into Norris so that George gets another win next week.
Yeah, it was dumb. And then, I don't know. He drove a good race. But I just don't like George Russell. I think that's just a me thing. I think it's like how people didn't like Aaron Rodgers. Well, really, at Green Bay, I feel like that's the comparison.
Well, that's because Aaron Rodgers was a prima donna in Green Bay, complaining about his team being shite, and then them going off and consistently getting to the NFC Championship games, and him winning MVPs. You can't complain about your team that much as Aaron Rodgers, and then you guys are winning. You can't complain that much about your team if you are winning games consistently and consistently having opportunities to go play in the Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah. I feel like that's kind of the same principle there. I don't know. I don't like George Russell. I think that's just a me thing. I think I don't like him that much.
It's okay. That's your opinion if you don't like George Russell. But he did show today that he is very capable of winning a title if he can continue to put up these performances week in and week out. And I think I was actually thinking about this today while watching the race and thinking about just the mental mindset of a F1 champion. And I was going down the list of drivers on the grid that actually have the mentality to win a driver's championship. Because I think George does. As much as you don't like him, I think that he does have the drive to win a world championship. I think it's very different than Lando Norris, who seems to be just getting in his own way. He's overdriving, he's trying to push too hard. We saw it with his collision with Piastri today. But George showed, even with his battle with Verstappen, that he can take it to the top drivers. He wasn't afraid of Max.
No, and I think Lando's just showing, he shows more and more of his true colors every single week, and every single time we see him in a high pressure situation. And I feel like it even goes back to Russia, whenever he had his first race win on the books and he just blew it. I feel like he tries to do stuff that you shouldn't do. And you see it with Piastri, even in this race today. When Piastri was fighting Kimi at the very opening start of the race, he had a chance to throw it around the outside of turn 3. He backed out of the move because he realized that difference between P4 and P3 is not going to make a difference in a World Drivers' Championship, but a difference between a P4 and a DNF makes all the difference in a championship. Is a race win ahead of Lando, and it's pretty hard to come back from if Norris if Piastri is able to just finish all the races. You can coast in easily.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a big caveat with that, is that Piastri is going to finish all of the races, because we saw another power unit failure from the Mercedes engine with Albon today. So like the reliability of the McLarens isn't a foregone conclusion. Granted, all of the cars are different. They have similar components, but they are different. So they're running at different engine modes. They have different wear and tear on them. So it's not to say that it's guaranteed, but we have seen a lot of reliability issues from the McLaren engine. So it's not a foregone conclusion that Piastri is going to finish each race this year, but it puts him in a prime spot to win the World Drivers' Championship. And I think with today's win of George Russell puts him at like 136, I think. So now he's within striking distance. So like one DNF from Piastri, and this whole Drivers' Championship gets real interesting and real exciting.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, at a certain point, you start to wonder, like, how far back is too far back for someone to lunge? Because, I mean, we've seen...
Like on the racetrack?
No, I'm talking about in like point standings.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of people who we count out right now, but they could just go on a monster run and just run away with the championship.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the point standings right now. So we have Oscar Piastri leading the World Drivers' Championship with 198 points. Norris is second at 176. Verstappen's at 155. George Russell is at 136. And Leclerc in fifth right now is at 104. So it's still very early in the season. We just finished round 10, so we have 14 more to go. We have 24 races in the season. I think right now the top 4 are all in play. So if Mercedes continues to look as good as they did today, and those upgrades continue to perform out in Austria, I think that they have a chance to get in the fight and start scrapping with the McLarens up in the front. Give it another, five races, then we'll start to see who is in or out. I think after the European leg of this, so after the next 6 races, that's when we're going to really see who's in contention for this World Drivers' Championship and who's not in contention.
Yeah, 100%. And, I mean... there's still a lot of races left to be raced, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of movement, especially towards these next couple of weeks before the summer break.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a person who's, I think, 7th on the list with 63 points, and let's talk about our boy, Kimi Antonelli.
Woo!
What a race from the young Italian, Nick. Threw it up in 4th to start the race in qualifying. Him and George snuck out, really came out of nowhere in Q3 and put it 1-4. And then Kimi starts the race, has an amazing move, overtakes Piastri going into the first corner, and really that set himself up for the rest of the race. Was able to stay P3 even with the tire deg, all of the strategy going on in the background, and then staving off a late comeback from both McLarens for the last 10 laps of the race. My heart was pumping, just hoping that Kimi was going to hang on, and he ended up hanging on. So Nick, what are your thoughts about Kimi coming in 3rd, getting his first podium for the season?
So the craziest thing about this is he is the 3rd youngest driver to make a podium. I don't know if you heard it during the broadcast, but who were the 2 other drivers that made a podium younger than Kimi Antonelli?
Let's go. Can I get 3 questions to narrow it down?
Sure, but you got 2.
All right. All right, Genie. Are they?
You got no. You have three questions still, but you have two drivers to name.
Yeah. Okay, I thought me asking a question was that's why I called you a Genie. So are both of them on are they on the grid currently?
Yes, both of them are still on the grid.
Okay, let's go. Max Verstappen.
Yep. He's the youngest driver ever with Spain. I'm pretty sure it was his race win. I'm pretty sure it was his first podium.
Okay, so Max is one, and I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton. All right, so two more lives. Let's go. Are they in a bottom 5 team?
They're in a midfield team.
Is that bottom 5? So top 5 are McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, Williams.
No, they're in a bottom 5. Then.
So they're in Haas, Red Bull, or Racing Bull, Aston Martin, Kick Sauber, Alpine.
Mm-hmm.
Are they...
This is your final question, by the way.
Yeah. Are they... How do I want to say this? Are they a fan favorite on the grid?
I'd say they're more, I don't know. They're kind of just there.
They're there.
I mean, Max Verstappen is actually number 2 on the list. The next one is number 1, the youngest driver to ever put it on the podium.
And a bottom team. I'm going through the teammates. If he's just there, I'm down between Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll. Let's throw up. Is it Lance Stroll?
It is Lance Stroll.
Got it in.
As the youngest driver ever at the age of a fresh 18 in the streets of Baku. Puts it on the podium in the Williams. 2018.
Wow. No, I didn't know that. So it's Max and Stroll.
They dropped it during the broadcast, and I barely caught it because they were like, yeah, if Kimi, he'll be the 3rd youngest driver ever, followed by the likes of Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll.
I must have missed that during the broadcast.
I was like, Lance Stroll? What? So 2017, he puts it on the podium for Baku.
Wow.
Baku for Williams.
Did not know that. Kudos to Lance Stroll. So if you haven't watched this yet, Nick, go and watch the Race did a podcast leading up to the Canadian Grand Prix where they talk about the 20 drivers and who's the pound for pound best driver on the grid. And they had a Canadian on there who knew Lance Stroll. I didn't really know much about Lance's career and coming up through the formulas to get to F1. Apparently, he won F3 and then hopped straight up to F1. And he came along the same time as Max Verstappen. And because Max went from F3 straight into the Toro Rosso back in the day, Lance wanted to do the same thing. And I didn't know that he had won a championship, but that he was a very competent driver in the junior formulas leading up to Formula One.
Well, yeah, Stroll was a good race car driver. It's just very interesting how his legacy has been remembered, I guess to say.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that his daddy's a billionaire. Because you're always going to get those nepotism comments that he just paid his way through the racing career. But he did have to beat other people. I mean, Daddy Stroll easily could have paid off all the other 29 drivers in F3. But he still, I think he did show that he was competent. So cool fun fact. That's going to be a fun clip. I'm going to throw it up on social media. So let's get back to Kimi, and I'm just impressed with him. I think he showed it in Miami when he put it on pole for the sprint race. He's now validated that success with a podium finish today. Where do you think he goes from here?
I think he goes only up. I mean, he's 18 putting it on a pole, and I mean, I guess the same could be said about Stroll.
I think there's a little bit more optimism with Kimi.
Yes, but Kimi, he's a rookie still, and he's already put it on pole. In that race, he showed a lot of poise today, 100%, because he just he was able to just overtake on the first lap and then keep his cool for the race, manage his tires, pit when he needed to pit, and just take it home. I mean, and he pressured Max Verstappen at points in the race and backed off. It was really impressive.
Yeah, very good.
Just to see his composure today.
Yeah, very composed. He defended phenomenally against Piastri. Piastri had a fresher set of tires, was trying to get the overtake done, and Kimi just parked it like a barn door. And he looked like the Ministry of Mexican Defense. Took a little playbook out of, or a page out of Checo's playbook, and was able to hold him up until Lando Norris came through the back and put it into the wall after destroying his front wing on Piastri's rear.
Segueing into that may have been the stupidest. Sorry, you brought it up. It may have been the stupidest thing ever from Lando. What are you doing? You watch Lando's onboard. There's no gap.
No,
there's nothing there.
There is no gap. So let's paint the picture for the people who didn't. If you haven't watched the race, go watch the race. But Piastri and Norris are scrapping. Norris already started on the back foot in qualifying 7th today. He is trying to fight for a World Drivers' Championship, which is probably this year's his best chance of getting it. And he had a chance to overtake, or he was trying to get an overtake done on Piastri to score a few more points, claw back a little in the World Drivers' Championship. They're coming down the back straight, correct?
No.
Front,
it's not
the first straight.
No, because on going into turn 10, which is a massive hairpin going into one of the final straights, Lando overtakes Piastri. Piastri is able, they both have DRS coming down because they were chasing back markers. So they're level pegging. Piastri's late on the brakes. He goes through. They go through the Villeneuve Cave into the wall champions. They're on that front straight going into turn 1. Piastri's on the racing line and takes his normal path. Lando sticks it around the outside and buries his front wing under the left rear of Piastri and just goes directly into the wall. It may have been the stupidest attempt at passing at a certain point on the racetrack ever.
Yeah, it didn't look great from the broadcast, but then I saw the onboards afterwards, and there was nothing. Like, he had a half a car length.
And it wasn't even open at a certain point, like where he was trying to go. It was closed the whole way. Half of the car length, if he were to put his car there, was on grass. There was just nothing there. It was
great defense by Piastri. Great placement of the car.
But there was no gap. There was no anything for him.
He did come on the radio afterwards and said, I'm stupid. That was my fault. There's no one else to blame but me. But yeah.
It sounded like Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, a little bit, yes. I don't know if this ruins his World Drivers. I don't think that it ruins his World Drivers Championship.
Oh, no, not at all.
Opportunities. But there is something mentally blocking Lando Norris from just like doing the boring stuff well. Like keeping it calm, keeping his composure. He looks like he's trying to like force something that isn't there. And I know he hasn't had the best to...
So, like, compare it to, like, Max Verstappen. Like, what does Max Verstappen do that Lando doesn't do?
So, it's like pressing. That's the best way to describe it. And I played golf today, so I'm going to use a golf analogy. But it's like if you just hit a bad shot, you slice your driver into the thick rough, you're not going to be able to pull a hybrid and get it to the green on a par 5. So what you do is you just take your 7-iron, you punch it back into play, you get it, maybe advance it 50 to 100 yards, and then you take a 7-iron, 8-iron, whatever you're going 150 yards into the hole. It's not boring, it's not pretty, it's not like flashy, it's not sexy, but it's functional. And you don't compound bad decisions. And I feel like that's what Lando is doing. He's compounding his bad mistakes. So he already qualified 7th, so he was on the back foot to start the race. He was trying to get back up into the points. And honestly, like even if he finishes 5 today behind Piastri only has so how many did he get today? 10 for coming in 4th? Yeah, it'd be 10 today. So he only loses 2 points to Piastri today, and he's not a full 25 points behind him in the Drivers' Championship. So
Lando would have lost 2 points today because the difference between 5th and 4th is 2 points.
Yeah, so it's not worth that risk to try to even make them move. Like, he had the inside open because Piastri went to cover him off, and he could have tried to, like, reverse back down the inside instead of going up the outside. 100%. So I think that's the analogy that I would drive. And I think I see it with Verstappen, is that he does the boring stuff really well. Even if you don't like Max's personality, he knows when to push and when to just, like, take the loss, take the second place, and live to fight another day.
Question though, do you think that's because Max does so much sim racing that he really, really does just enjoy, and especially in endurance racing too, I feel like it puts a microscope on doing the boring stuff really well. Do you think because of Max's enjoyment in sim racing and just driving really, really long distances around a racetrack, do you think that he just enjoys racing more than Lando? Like, just the nitty gritty lap by lap?
No,
race?
I won't say that it doesn't help him to just get experience sim racing. But I think with Max, he is more mature. So I would say that, like, in Max's early days, he would press. He would try to make moves that weren't there. But then after his first World Drivers' Championship in 2021, he realized that a championship isn't won or lost after one race weekend. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint, so you have the entire season. And I think you saw this in 2022 when Red Bull had the double DNFs at
Melbourne.
Was it in Melbourne? They weren't out in the middle yet. So they had the double DNFs in Melbourne. They did not start the year off well. They had reliability issues, and then it wasn't Melbourne, because Melbourne is when they started to. Where did they start this year?
Australia.
Or where did they second race of the year?
Baku.
They were not in Baku this year.
No, Bahrain. Right?
Bahrain. Okay, yeah. No, they had a double DNF in Bahrain. They were on the back foot, and then in Melbourne
I thought they had two double DNFs.
No,
I thought it was Baku and then Bahrain. Or no, it was Baku and then it was Bahrain and then
Melbourne?
Yeah, it was. Because I remember Max going out on that final lap, and he was going to get, like, second to Charles.
Max might have had a DNF, but it wasn't a double DNF. But I'm pretty sure I just looked this up the other day because I was talking with someone in the comments. But they didn't start out well, and they were finally able to put it all together near the end of the season.
Yeah, it was a double DNF. I was right.
In Melbourne?
Yes, both of them were gone.
Bahrain too?
It was Bahrain, and then Melbourne.
Okay. Well,
and then it was DNF 1 Australia, and then it was 1-1-1-3-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-7-1-1-1-1-6-1.
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't get worried that the DNFs were going to derail his entire season. He kept it cool. Even in the post-interview races, he was like, it is what it is. Like, we'll be back to fight another day. And I think even in his seventh place position, he was like, it was just a bad day for the car. We'll come back. So, like, there's this quiet confidence that Max has because he knows what it takes to win a World Drivers' Championship. So I think that's the biggest difference that I see. But I do see it with Piastri.
No, I also see it in Oscar because it's very. They're just different. Him and Lando are just two different people, and they don't even look like the best of friends. And, like, you can go watch some of their pre-race interviews and stuff, and, like, their team with social media and things, but they don't look like the bestest of friends. And I'm not saying that they have to be, but I'm saying, like, you can tell when, like, a driver group is friends. They don't seem like friends. They just seem like work colleagues.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong there. So, Nick, keep it moving right now, and let's go down. Let's just rapid fire down the grid, and let's talk about everyone's results today. So we've essentially talked about McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes a lot. Let's get into Ferrari real quick. Charles Leclerc again arguing with his race engineer on why they put him back onto the hard tire. He started on the hard started on the mediums?
No, it was why they were putting him on the... Yeah, no, it was hards. It was hards.
Yeah, so he started out on the hards. He went into the pits, got put back on the hards, and he was like, what the hell are we doing?
I don't know. I feel like the Ferrari people just hate both of their drivers. I don't think they like them. I don't think they listen to them. I think Ferrari just is playing a computer game, and they're just like, oh, slap lap 40, we got a pit. Oh, Charles said the tires are good? No. He's just got a pit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. What does he think he is, an F1 driver? Like, they just...
Yeah,
they just do stuff.
Well, it was weird today because a lot of drivers were complaining about their pit boxes, giving them bad strategy. I mean, we saw Albon. Albon definitely was in the wrong when he said his tires were good. Before his power unit failure, he had radioed whoever his race engineer was and was like, no, I'm staying out. Don't want to change the tires. They're good. And then maybe a lap or two later, he started sinking like a rock. I was watching the little timing sheets on the side, and it just went like, oh, Hulkenberg passed him, Ocon, Gasly, Stroll, Colapinto, and it's just like, oh no, he was definitely in the wrong. Ended up pulling DNFing with a power unit failure, but it was just a bad call from him today.
100%.
All right, what about let's talk about the other Ferrari driver, and let's get into Lewis Hamilton, who kind of like his race was ruined after RIP, that groundhog, him just like running it over. I know Gasly did that last year. Magnussen, I think, ran over a groundhog too in practice. Poor creature.
Man, I don't feel any sympathy. I thought it was funny because when on the opening laps of the race, announcers were talking about the living Montreal track, because the Montreal track changes so much with dirt and leaves and stuff, and occasionally groundhogs, and then to see a groundhog eventually die during the race, it was very much a bummer.
Yeah, R.I.P. You're in our thoughts and prayers tonight. No, because it was really weird. I know we had Lewis in our bets, and you had him doing better than 5. I had him beating Leclerc, and at the beginning of the race they were like, oh yeah, Hamilton has body damage, he's losing half a second per lap, and I was like, no, how did he get damage? Because there was nothing on the track. I didn't see a collision with anyone. And then after the race, it turns out he just ran over an animal. So any closing thoughts for them?
No, I mean, his bad luck streak has just continued, and it's just such a bummer.
All right, Nick, do you just want to do boxer push for these the rest of the drivers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, boxer push Fernando Alonso.
Sorry, I gotta pull up my race results real quick.
I came in 7th.
Fernando, another points. Let's keep it pushing. I feel like he had a very good race again this week, and it just continues to put out long good weekends. And I feel like he just needed that first point, and then he can just keep it rolling. Right. So I feel like he's gonna continue to do good things.
All right. Yeah. Kudos to Fernando Alonso. Great points finish for Aston Martin this week. Moving on, Nico Hulkenberg coming in 8th. Back-to-back points finish for the
Hulkenberg. I feel like it was a very good race again for him. I mean, he's a pro. He takes advantage of his opportunities, and it's awesome to see him put in the points and starting to see that a little bit, that consistency from that kick Salba. So let's keep it pushing.
All right, Esteban Ocon.
I feel like it was a pretty good race for him. I didn't see his name that much, and I know he was fighting with Ollie throughout a lot of that race, which was kind of very surprising. They just kept on going back and forth, but I feel like they raced a really good race today.
Yeah, Leapy over there. It is 10:44 Eastern Standard Time for where I'm recording. 9:44.
You're still kicking pretty well. I am
fading fast. All right, well, let's make like the win before. Let's make like a Williams before your engine cover blows off. No, good race from Ocon. The Haas yo-yo continues to fluctuate, so not expecting a good one in Austria out of them. even though they did perform well there last year. So next on the grid, let's talk about Carlos Sainz, pusher box.
I mean, I think we need a box for a brief second.
Okay, comes in 10th this week, lap down on the grid.
Yeah, so thing with the Carlos Sainz Williams experiment is it's working, but it's not at the same time. I think Williams, if we're really focusing on all their car development on 2025, is really starting to show. I know Albon qualified very well, but they just don't.
Let's make a note that Carlos Sainz did get impeded by Hajar in Q1. That kept him out.
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's stupid. I'm going to say no, because Carlos Sainz's lap time wouldn't have counted anyways. That's why that was the stupidest penalty ever. He left the track completely.
I'll have to go back to review qualifying, but
because Carlos drove it off the track. That's why Hajar thought he had aborted his lap.
Well, everything that I saw from the broadcast during qualifying was that Carlos was on a hot lap, and the Racing Bulls engineers didn't tell him that he was coming up. Like he didn't know that Carlos Sainz was on a hot lap trying to.
It's because he left the track and the Racing Bull engineers told him that he had aborted the lap.
All right, I'll have to do some more research on that, but continue.
Okay, but I feel like Carlos Sainz, I mean, you can definitely tell in their race pace that the car development has definitely been shifted to the 2026 car. I think it will be interesting to see how far they end up slipping in the standings and in the races from week to week.
Yeah, we'll see about that, because I know everyone else is also stopping development on their 2025 car. I think the last upgrades that we'll probably see are Ferrari and Silverstone to see if those work, but everyone else I think is going to stop at least by mid break, so after Silverstone.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's keep it moving. Let's go down the list. Box to push, Ollie Behrman.
I think I'm going to push it past him. I feel like he's put in really good race results, and I think we're just waiting to see a big pop-out week from him. I'm really excited to see what he ends up doing.
Yeah, it will have to be on one of the ups on Haas's race weeks. So we're pushing. Next up, Yuki Tsunoda.
I don't even want to talk about it. Let's keep it.
Yeah, you gotta.
I mean, I feel like Yuki's just in such a weird spot. It's really just interesting where he's at.
He finally got the upgrades of Max Verstappen, so they are driving the same floor spec in FP3. But then he got a 10-place grid penalty for overtaking during a red flag. So like, let's just good recovery race from 18. But like,
I mean, even that onboard was dumb too, because in his onboard, all you see is the automatic lap ones,
Mm-hmm.
so like the digital ones, which was showing a flashing yellow flag. And then he drives past a car, and then immediately you see a red flag being waved by a marshal. So it was just so weird, because on his onboard, it looks like it's a double waved yellow, and then he drives past the car, and then there's just a marshal with a red flag right there around the corner.
Yeah, what, it was Leclerc's car? No. Whose car was it?
Yeah, it would have been Leclerc.
Yeah, questionable calls from the stewards this week, especially on overtaking red flags.
It was just weird.
Drivers are just struggling with that. Okay, let's move on from Yuki Tsunoda. Franco Colapinto finally out-qualified Gasly. Pushing or boxing? Wing adjustment?
You make the call, Ben. You make the call.
Keep it pushing. Good on Colapinto. Finally looked competent is probably the best word to use for this. I don't really have much to say. Let's see if he can do it 2 weeks in a row, and then we can talk about it a little bit more then. Moving down the list, next up is Gabriele Bortoleto. I want to talk about him.
Talk about him, all of you.
All right, so real quick, he was one of my locks of the week. I did win my grid rival pick'em. Took Gabriele Bortoleto to finish above 16 and a half. Got a little nervous once he only qualified 15th, but it was a hard track to overtake. He did enough to keep it in 14th, and we came home with a win. We came home with a win even with the 15 and a half line that I had posted to our story. So good on you, man. Gabriele Bortoleto, for coming in better than 16 and a half and 15 and a half.
Yeah.
All right, we can keep it moving. Let's go down the list. Pierre Gasly.
Man, I really don't feel like talking about any of these people besides besides my guy.
All right, so
my love. You can take the rest of them until my love.
All right, so I'm just going to lump them all together now. Isaac Hadjar, Lance Stroll, Lando Norris. We've talked about Norris, Liam Lawson, and Alex Albon.
Wait, that's so weird.
What?
Lando Norris gets an actual finish position.
DNF.
No.
Came in 18th.
It has, yeah, he came in 18th. But the other ones say no contest.
I don't know enough about that, but this is just Google.
And Lando Norris received a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision.
Deservingly so.
So I wonder if that will be applied next week or...
Yeah, it will be applied next week. His next race is when it will be applied. All right, Nick, any of the bottom the bottom tier, Pierre, Hadjar, Stroll, or Lawson, Albon?
I mean, Stroll making it back in a week, that's pretty impressive, especially with the surgery scars still on his hands.
Good on you for coming back and coming last of the finishers, but he did finish the race, so.
He did.
All right, any final closing thoughts? Who was your person that you were talking about?
I was talking about Isaac Hadjar. I feel like it was a very very interesting race from him, especially where he qualified at and what he was actually able to do with the car. The car just didn't look like it had it all weekend.
Yeah, they didn't show much on the broadcast, so I didn't see him dropping like a stone or see what happened with him.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see. He just didn't really do too much. That was really my final
final thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after the triple header, he had to come back down to earth a little bit. His wings haven't completely come unglued flying too close to the sun. They're just a little more loose, but I think in Austria he's gonna have a bounce back week for him.
100%.
All right, with that, Nick, let's end this segment and get into our competition next. All right, Nick, we are back. Let's review our team competitions this week. Previous to this, it was a 5-4. I am up 1 point, but I think that you got a couple points this week. So let's see how we did. And just a reminder for everyone listening, we do a competition between me and Nick. We choose our podium positions, top three. We do a teammate battle, and then we do a top 10, and then we have recently added on our locks of the week, which, Nick, I do need to talk to you about this because we need to start strategizing these together so that we can hit all four. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So with that, let's get into our top three. And this week, Nick, you had coming home with the win, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris in second, and Max Verstappen in third.
Big fat goose egg for me this week.
Yeah, you had Max, who was on the podium, but no one hit. And we are doing, if you do get them in the right position, you will get a point. But this week I had Lando Norris coming home with the dub. That blew up like a front wing on me once that collision happened. He just had no chance this weekend. So he didn't come in. I had Piastri coming in second. He did not hit either. And then I did take George Russell to get on the podium. I just thought that it was going to be in a third place and not coming home with the dub. But good on George this week. I do not have the anti-British bias like Nick. But yeah, we'll try to be a little bit better next week. But one area that you did do really well in is the teammate battle that you chose this week, and you had Esteban Ocon coming in ahead of Ollie Behrman. So Nick, you get 1 point for that. So
let's go.
Good on you. And then I had the teammate battle in Ferrari with Hamilton coming over Leclerc, and it was looking real good during qualifying. Hamilton qualified 5th. Leclerc was down in, 9th?
Mm-hmm.
This week, so started out really well, and then as soon as Hamilton ran over that groundhog and destroyed his floor, he just lost too much time to Leclerc and ended up coming home behind him, coming home in 6th, and Leclerc took home the 5th after the Norris DNF. So I do not get any points for that. And then we have a top 10 finish. And Nick, you took Fernando Alonso coming home in the points. So you get 1 point for that. And I had Yuki Tsunoda getting the upgrades and hopefully coming home in the top 10, but that did not hit. He only made it back to 12th. But if he would have actually, like, if he wouldn't have gotten that penalty, he was looking good to take home a points finish this week.
Yeah,
but
100%.
But the penalty held, and I got 0 points. So now the standing is coming in with Nick, 2 points for you this week. You are up to 6 points, and I am still at 5. So good. Good work.
Catching up.
Yeah, took the lead.
Yeah,
did a little overtake.
Because that's what I do.
Roses for you. All right, and then finally, closing out this competition segment, we did our over-unders based on the lines that Grid Rivals set. And Nick, you had a Carlos Sainz and Hamilton pairing where the lines were set at 9 and 5.5. You went worse for Carlos Sainz at 9 and better for Hamilton at 5.5. So you did get the Carlos Sainz. That did hit, but Lewis Hamilton did not do better than 5.5.
Yeah, I knew taking Lewis was kind of bold.
So you got one right, though. And then I had taken Leclerc at 4 and Bortoleto at 15.5. I said worse for Leclerc at 4 and better for Bortoleto at 15.5. And those both came in and hit for me today.
Let's go. And
let's go. We're batting 75% on our prediction.
Yeah. That's good though. I mean, we're making some money.
Yeah. I mean, I made $15 this week, so on a $5 bet.
Yeah. I pushed.
Okay. So it is a push if they come in that position?
Yeah.
Okay. So good on you, Nick. Good on us. And I want to pause right here and say next week, let's coordinate our predictions of how we think the drivers are going to do, because if we were talking about this, we would have had Norris, Piastri, like they're going to be in the top 3.
Yeah.
Verstappen is going to be in the top 3, 4 at the worst. So those are like, we have 3 drivers automatically locked in. George probably going to be up there, so that's 5.
Yeah.
Or those are the top 4 drivers, and then we have Leclerc and Hamilton. So if we would have coordinated our bets with Leclerc going worse, coming in 5th, that leaves Hamilton to be worse than 5.5.
Yeah.
So we'll coordinate more for next time so that we can try to hit on all 4. Okay.
I didn't realize you were actually throwing these bets down. I thought we were just throwing numbers out there.
No. Well, we are for this. I threw money on Bortoleto because I got a promotion for Piastri coming in first or better. So yeah. I really was just betting on Bortoleto to do well, to not come last. And
that is true.
Good on Bortoleto for having a good rookie race weekend in that stakes hour.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, that does it for our race review. Any final closing thoughts before we get out of here today?
Nope, not that I have.
All right. Well,
Kimi is on the scene, and he's going to keep doing it. It's my only statement. Kimmy's the new kid on the block that's going to be around for a while.
Yes. I'm excited. I'm excited for Kimi. I will leave you with this. Hamilton will be on the podium in Silverstone.
That's when you're wrong, but anyways. You got some damage? You hit a groundhog pin? Is that what you did?
I did. I'm losing half a second.
I think you may need box.
Peace.